All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, taking on a unique turn here, getting into some athlete backstories with Sports Kita, and very happy to be welcoming on grappling sensation Danielle Kelly to get into all of that and get some of the nuances of the backstory and everything. So, yeah, thanks for coming on and talking a little bit about that, Danielle. How's your day going so far?
My day's going pretty good. Kind of on vacation, so I'm just taking a little break from trading, but then I'm back tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just like so much momentum you've had in the last number of years for sure. But I want to take it back right to the beginning with everything. Like, what was the, like foundational moments? Like, what was the childhood like growing up there for you?
Uh, Meeting at home?
Yeah, just like general upbringing, like where you came from, just different dynamics in your upbringing and all that.
So I'm born in Northeast Philadelphia. And I also have family from like the mountains of Pennsylvania, so I would travel back and forth. I probably moved like maybe 2 or 3 times over the years. So I started in like a Philadelphia elementary school. Then my parents and my brother decided to move to like a suburban area. So I used to live in like Abington, and then later on in high school I was living at like Huntington Valley. Everyone that's from Pennsylvania. And yeah, I mean I've been basically a new kid my whole life, so it was a little challenging.
Yeah, and like what were some of those like early interests that you developed there just amid all of this, just like moving around to different places? Were there certain like interests that you really gravitated towards around those kind of formative years there?
Interests, I think like by the time we moved the first time, I was at a new school. It was pretty much bigger than the last one that I went to, and being a new kid, you're kind of like the outcast, or how they call it. So I decided to do Jiu Jitsu, because I wouldn't say like I was getting bullied like right away, but, I was in 7th grade, or I think I was in 6th grade, excuse me. I was in 6th grade, and the school that I was at before was like a middle school combined, so it would be like the 6th graders with the oldest, the 9th graders, and then the high school from that school was like 10th to senior year. So, it was kind of like I wouldn't say like a wake-up call, but it was kind of like a fast push to, kind of grow up a little faster and learn how to, defend myself. And eventually I got into wrestling to help with my jiu-jitsu. So, yeah, it was pretty much, when I was living in the new area, I needed like a new school to like learn self-defense, excuse me, and how to defend myself. Because, my dad was pretty sick at the time, so, I just had to find time for myself to start training. And, my mom would start taking me there. And ever since, I kind of just stuck with it, and here I am, doing
Like mindful of like the self.
with the biggest company in the world.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing for sure. So like it was like very like mindful of like the self-defense kind of aspect. Was this like a martial art that you were, I guess, privy to even before that? Or was it more like your parents kind of recommending it like, hey, we've heard jiu-jitsu is like a good form of self-defense and it could subvert some of the difficulties you're going through? Like, was it more that?
So actually, I forgot to even mention, a few years back when I was living in Philadelphia, me and my brother, my dad, or both my parents, I kind of forget, but my parents took me and my brother to a karate school at first, and they're still around actually. They're a pretty big karate name. So we went there, and I only did a few classes those few months because I guess like the price at that time, my mom wasn't really too fun about it. So after that, a couple years later, we moved to the new area that we moved to for my brother and I, the middle school. And they were trying to find me self-defense classes, and I guess my dad searched for, like, on the Google, like, at the time, it sounds really old, but at the time it was like Google Maps. So we were searching for like karate like schools, So me going to this new school, I was kind of like thinking, okay, I'm going to go to like a karate school and learn striking because I needed to learn how to like defend myself right away. And my instructor at the time introduced me to Jiu Jitsu, and it was kind of new to me because I was like, I don't know what Jiu Jitsu is. It sounds weird. And then my brother never didn't like it the first time either. He was like, oh, I don't want to wear like the whole gi thing because he thought it was like stupid. So I gave it like a few days. My parents made me show up to like give me a chance to like it. And my instructor at the time like tried to explain that jiu-jitsu is basically, if someone were to take you down or if you got knocked down, you can learn how to defend yourself on the ground. So I thought that was very interesting to me. And, I got into it, and I guess like 3 or 4 months later, I joined like some local competition, and I did really well. So I ended up placing like 2 first places, and I guess the owner of the promotion of the tournament thought I was cheating, so he made me do like the expert division. So then I took third in the expert division, submitting like one of the last 2 girls. So it got me hooked right away, and here I am.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was going to ask, like, because it seems like at first it was like a utility-minded kind of thing, just with certain, like, bullying going on. But I was wondering, like, when, like, that first memory was of, like, I guess, like, emotionally connecting with martial arts and it really, like, sparking more of, like, a passion-minded kind of thing. Like, would it be those tournaments and just, like, it being oriented to, like, the results and the momentum that you're building? Like, when do you first remember, I guess, emotionally connecting with martial arts in a profound way?
I feel like I feel like that feeling stuck with me, like as a young kid too. And it's kind of weird because I feel like kids are like, as you're growing, it's I guess you feel. I mean, I guess as a kid you don't know how to explain it. I guess you don't have a lot of emotions because you're just a kid. But for me, like in my shoes growing up, I had a sick dad at home, and it was one of those things like you come home from school, do your homework, make sure he's okay, and then what else? So I didn't really have many friends at the new school, so I used jiu-jitsu as a way to release, I used jiu-jitsu as an escape, and it was healthy, and I think that was actually what my parents were trying to do, so to make sure that, and they were trying to do that with my brother as well, but he didn't like jiu-jitsu, unfortunately. But for me, they liked that I had something that I can escape to, so I don't have to stay home and, kind of just deal with what was going on at home. But, I think that's probably what set me to stick with jiu-jitsu because, my dad at the end basically put me onto martial arts, whether it was karate or jiu-jitsu now.
And then was the goal to, I guess, always get involved in some form of competition? Were you at a maybe earlier point where you're like, oh, I'll kind of train and refine technique and go through that? Or was the goal to always want to, like, test it in a live competition sort of setting?
I always wanted to test myself. I always felt like I could do more, and I'm still like that now. Maybe I'm a little more harsh for myself right now because, for like jiu-jitsu tournaments or matches, if I can't or didn't submit my opponent, I just feel like crap at myself. It's like, you work so hard to work on that specific detail and you can't get it done. So I think I'm much harder on myself now than when I was little. But, I mean, I was always competing when I was little, like almost every weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that would be mindful of just like that constant, improvement and refinement and everything like that. Like obviously your game is at quite a high level being that you're with such a large company there, but it's probably like a not wanting to rest on your laurels sort of thing, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, for sure. For being signed under one of the biggest promotions, one championship, it makes me work much harder, I just think as you get older, as you climb up to the higher ranks, especially black belt, it gets harder, as a kid, it's like, you can always just test yourself. And yeah, I think that's just the best way I can explain it, not really sure when the next time I'll be competing, hopefully soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely want to be seeing more of that there. But you were talking about some of the earlier, successes in your competitive kind of run there and everything like that. Was there any kind of like defined epiphany moment where you realized like, hey, I can make a run at this professionally, like engaging in a lot of like high level grappling competition, or was it more of like a gradual realization as opposed to like an epiphany moment?
That's actually a really good question. I think, I was kind of like, there was a lot of obstacles, especially being in the sport too, for myself and like, regarding my life. I was just trying to be like the regular person, going to school, doing my job, and find like a real job. And, I felt like life kind of hit me really young, and I felt like after my mom passed, I felt like I had a lot of things to work on, and because I grew up so fast, feels like I grew up so fast mentally, I felt like I was missing out a lot. So there was a point when I kind of quit jiu-jitsu and competing altogether, like during my college year, just because I thought, don't know why I'm doing this. This isn't going to do anything for me. This is not making me money. And, I thought I was doing something. Me leaving jiu-jitsu for that little specific time, I felt like I was unhappier. So when I got back into it, I competed right away. Once I started taking it seriously again, it wasn't about the winning, because I definitely, when I came back and took it much seriously, I was definitely winning more and, putting in the work. And I think that's when these tournaments and, like, special matches started to, like, do money giveaways or, like, prizes. So that was very motivating to do because, when people compete, like, they're trying to win. So that was a good motivator. And I would say, like, maybe the last 2 years ago was when I was really seeing, like, okay, I could definitely do something with this. And, I've always heard about One Championship, and I know they did, like, grappling matches, and it was, like, one of my dreams to do a match under them. And, just accomplishing that goal, I felt like, or now I still feel like I marked something on my bucket list, and I can do so much more, especially for them. So I'm still basically writing my chapter, but I'm happy to be doing it under one.
And I'm kind of wondering, like, you mentioned that sort of year you took off. I imagine that did a bit to, like, renew the vigor and enthusiasm and just have, like, a more, I guess, varied kind of life outside of just jiu-jitsu there. Like, how much of that do you, I guess, apply to what you're, presently doing there? Like, how important is it to have, like, just more of the personal life kind of focus interspersed with that to keep the, I guess, vigor and passion with, keeping pursuing and improving within jiu-jitsu? Is there, like, a utility to having that life balance in a competition kind of sense?
Could you explain the question? I'm sorry. I think you were breaking up a little bit.
Oh, no, it's okay. Just, like, you mentioned that year you sort of took off in college there. I imagine that, like, renewed the vigor and everything like that. Is that something you, I guess, presently apply to what you're doing, like, having more of that, like, balanced kind of life in as far as it having utility to your jiu-jitsu game?
Yeah. So, like, do I have other hobbies outside jiu-jitsu?
Sure, just like in as far as like having that as like an outward kind of release, so you're not like burning yourself out just focusing on one thing.
Gotcha. So to be honest, I would say like that whole year, I mean it was almost a year when I took off not training or competing. But also like I wasn't really at the right school. Like the original school I was at, I felt like I wasn't getting as much support as I used to, and there was like a lot of that going on. So, I felt like this was, like, the right answer of not training anymore, because why would I keep training if I'm not being supported by my own school, So, I felt like I didn't really, even that year, I didn't really do much because I was trying to finish college, but, I did, like, only a few classes at a time just because I was going through a lot, and, I felt like that hurt me more. So, now I feel like trying not to burn myself, I still try to make time for the activities I want to do. I teach a lot every weekend now, or during the week. I travel now last year and this year to teach at different schools, academies, and travel over the world now to showcase my jiu-jitsu and help others. So, yeah, I try to balance out everything, so I'm not too burnt out. Just like right now, I'm kind of like took a few days off to kind of go on like a family vacation and do some surfing, non-jiu-jitsu related. But now I'm itching to go back to the gym, so I guess I did a good job doing that.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And a couple times during this chat, you've mentioned the importance of like one championship and it being like a bucket list sort of thing. And it seems like there's been a good level of growth in like the grappling kind of ranks professionally in the last few years. So like in terms of, I guess, where you wanted to compete and showcase your skills, what was it about one? Like why one and not any other promotion?
Good question. I want to say bucket list because there's so much more things I want to accomplish under them, and I definitely would like if I ever want to fight, and I would like to just so I can have that under my belt. It would be under them, and what I love about them, I always say like what they represent, and it's so big, but excuse me, there's people coming. It's very big, but I love how everyone shows, all the fighters shows respect, even the promoters and everyone. I would say that what they stand out mostly is respect. When you go out there, you're walking to the circle. In the end, it's just you and your opponent. And, I feel like with other promotions, there's always like a lot of trash talk, which is fine to go up a fight. But a lot of times, like, you're talking down on someone's family. I don't agree with that. And most of those promoters are okay with it, or the fighters are okay with that. That's just not my style. Coming from someone that's been very close with their parents, so I always look at those kind of things. And one is very highly respected, and I also like that they show different kinds of martial arts, like kickboxing, Jiu Jitsu, MMA, all that stuff. So that's what really stood out to me, and I've been following them ever since they put on like the very first grappling show, which was like Gary Toden and Shinya. And I always followed Shinya when I was a kid, so it was really cool to see them grapple.
Yeah, I remember being fired up for the lead up to it and then seeing that actual contest for sure. But you've been really great with your time there, Danielle, and I want to be mindful of your schedule and all that, just, taking time off and getting ready to get back to the gym and all. So to that point, is there anything you might want to add as a parting thought as we're wrapping up here?
I'm sorry, you kind of cut up in the middle. Can you say that again? I was driving by.
Oh, no worries. Just if you had any parting thoughts you might want to add as we're wrapping up here.
Just I enjoyed the beach a little bit, but I think the Jiu-Jitsu gym is calling me back, And to me, to be fair, ever since I did my first one championship match, I went back after my match. I kind of came back to the gym after Singapore and still trained. I guess for me, what keeps me driven to get better is I'm just never satisfied. So hopefully when I compete next time under one, I get the finish.
Well, it's going to be exciting to see when that next contest kind of pops off there. But I appreciate you coming on and giving the backstory and what's kind of got you to the moment here and everything like that. So appreciate you taking part in this athlete backstory.
Was able to. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It kind of pauses and then it feels like you're not talking and then it comes on. But I think it's just because of the area I'm in. Sorry.
No need to be sorry at all. I appreciate you coming on and giving some great insights, Danielle. And I hope you have a great rest of your day too.
Thank you. You too.